Jay Scott, thanks for joining me today. You want to kick us off with how things are going in your life right now?
Yeah, well, as always, thank you for having me. It's just the same old here. Just wash, rinse, repeat, man. Same old drill. I am watching way more basketball probably the last 2 weeks than I've watched in the last 2 years. The first round of like the NBA playoffs is always like my favorite time to kind of watch basketball.
So let's start there. Why is the first round so appealing? And by the way, I agree because especially like those 4-5 matchups where there's no difference between these teams. It's just going to come down to like who's healthy or who makes that final play at the end of the game. But why do you like the first round so much, and what's been standing out to you in this particular first round of the NBA playoffs?
I mean, the finals are amazing, obviously, but it's like you get one game. And this way, it's like by the time I pop home or depending where I'm at, I'm like, I can get 3 games, like kind of just streaming back to back to back. Whether I watch them all or not, it really doesn't matter. But when you watch like an NBA playoff game compared to like a regular season game, like if it's game 45, nobody really gives a shit. But these games, like even last night I got home, what was it, Pacers and the Bucks. And it's like a 20-point difference, but the crowd is just so loud and so into it, even though like the gap is 20 points. If you're watching that game in, December, it's really not the same atmosphere environment.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously the stakes are at its peak. And then, you also really see, there's this whole NBA marketing campaign this year. Playoff Dame is not a thing. Playoff Jim, this isn't a thing. But when you see the really good players, they have, they've been playing like on a 7 or 8 out of 10 the whole year. Or it starts at like a 5, 6, midway through the season, they blow it to 7 or 8. And then you see, oh, wow, these guys have like an additional gear or two they can get to. And then everybody else doesn't. The mental part of it is what really eludes them, right? Like they just don't have they're getting tight, right? They don't have the ability to manage the increased crowd energy and noise. That's what's really just crazy when you see that there just are guys that, like, you can say you can't just flip the switch. No, some guys just flip the switch and they completely elevate to a whole new level. That's what's really exciting to me about the first round too. It's just the dramatic shift from what see, these guys really do are pacing. They're really pacing themselves.
Well, you watch like Jamal Murray, for example. Like if he averages 7 or 8 more points a game in the playoffs in the regular season, it's like a 25% increase, which is insane to see. So it's like he goes the whole year, and then all of a sudden, like in these games, it's a 7, 8, 9, 10-point rip on top of what he normally does, which is crazy to see.
I'll tell you what, man. What he did to the Lakers, what he's done to the Lakers the last 2 years, but particularly this particular series, because Denver didn't play very well. Denver looked very beatable throughout the entire series. The Lakers led 70% of the games.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And it was actually also one of those series too where like, oh wow, like it really matters who's your coach. It really matters who the coach is. Like I think if they would have flipped coaches, no doubt would they still be playing, but I would argue it would be a game 7 and it would be a toss up. And maybe the edge goes to Denver just because they have the home court, but Mike Malone so thoroughly outcoached Darvin Ham in this particular series. Like, dude, he was so locked in. They were up, I think it was he just had to make sure they won game 4, and they were up like 10 or 12. The game was over, but he was strategically taking timeouts with like 3 minutes left, 2 minutes left to ensure that a specific play was ran just to make sure the lead was over 10. In a way, and Darvin Ham's ending games with like 2 timeouts and 2 challenges, like just sitting there with his hands in his pockets. And so it was. I don't know if you agree with my assessment that if they flip coaches, the series is, well, I know the series is still playing. I watched every preseason game. I even watched some summer league this past season. Like, I'm officially in old man mode here on my retirement living room couch. But whether they ended up winning the series or not, who knows? But And now they've got to go play a Minnesota team that, like, I still don't think, when you're that young, you have enough experience together. I think Denver still is going to find a way to claw out of it. But this Minnesota matchup, especially the way they looked as vulnerable as they did against the Lakers with all their injury issues and coaching issues, it's going to be fascinating, man. And the West this year is unbelievable, like so good to the point where it's not even been that much fun to watch the Eastern Conference playoffs, to be honest. Maybe besides like the Knicks and Philly.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Timberwolves, they play defense for sure, and they have a lot of pieces, but I just think Denver is just better. Like, they're just the older dudes that have been there. And it's like when you watch those guys, like when you really watch a playoff game, like just like all 5 dudes that start for Denver are legit dudes. Like, you just kind of think like, oh, like Porter Jr., he's like 6'10", and it just doesn't seem like he is. And then all of a sudden you just see Caldwell Pope, like I remember just one play, he gets a steal and then just like takes off and just crams it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you can do that too. And then like Gordon is like your 3rd or 4th option, and he's just like this monster of a dude. It's like their team is like, they're really good, man. But the same thing, like the Lakers, like we'll just have dudes that wouldn't show up, like whether it's Hachimura or Spencer or whatever. Some of these dudes are having zeros. Like, they're scoring 0 points in playoff games, which is fucking wild to me. And so I think Denver beats the Timberwolves, but I don't know. It should be a good series, I would think.
I mean, and obviously there's this whole before we get into the Minnesota piece, with Denver, and there were moments watching this series where I'm like, oh wow, like this is the Chicago Bulls. This is what it felt like when I would watch the Bulls on, trying to go back to back with the three-peats. They would show vulnerabilities and they would play with their food a bit in the early rounds, but then it's closing time. Last 4, 5, 6 minutes of the game, and they just get it done, or they'd give a game or two, and then Michael Jordan would find a way to get motivated enough to show up. So they just have that, like, everyone on their team is not being asked to be overextended, right? Like, they're asking AD to basically play defense for everyone on the floor and then drop 30 points and get 20 rebounds every game. They're asking LeBron at 39 to play 40-plus minutes, lockdown defense, and then still get his like nearly triple 25 to 30-point triple-double while defending Jokic, while boxing out Aaron Gordon, and you can just see at the end of the games, bro, like Aaron Gordon basically secured the victory, in my opinion, with his offensive rebound over LeBron right at the end of their last game. He outmuscled him, took the ball. It was like a true, like, wow, like, he's old. Like, this is what happens when you're making the other guys are not doing their role and you're asking your star guys to, like, pick up the pieces, especially in Denver, man, with that altitude. Like, there's just no way. There's no way you can have your legs at the end of the game. But they do remind me, like, they do have that Chicago Bulls element. Jokic didn't even play particularly well. And then obviously Jamal Murray is one of the most clutch players I've seen. And I'm less upset about it now because I found out he's half Arab. I don't know if you knew that. His father's Jamaica, his mother's Syrian. So, okay, at least a half Arab, as a half Arab myself. I'm like, okay, if that's the guy that's going to put me out of my misery, fine, I'll accept it. But with obviously you're seeing all these comparisons. As a diehard MJ fan, I'd love to hear your take too. But the young man in Minnesota, that they're all calling the next MJ, Anthony Edwards, the Ant-Man. There's some similarities for sure. I was blown away by just the trash talking to Kevin Durant, like in game 1 of the series.
Well, it's weird because they have like that thing. It's like that internet meme going around, like he's like really MJ's kid. Like they do like this, like they have the timelines all matched up, like this conspiracy theory. Then they split the faces in half and they do all this stuff. Like, I don't know about all that, but like he does play, like, for being so young, like he doesn't force the issue. Like he just kind of plays the game where he'll take the shots he needs to take. He doesn't take terrible shots. Like he takes difficult shots. I go, but that's what ballers do. But he kind of just lets the game go at the pace it's going, where a lot of dudes who are young, just like every time, like when you watch like Iverson just is a menace and just forces the issue all the time, where Ant just kind of like, let me just play. If I only have 12 points at halftime, like, it's cool. And then the third quarter comes out and the dude drops like 18. And he does everything else though too. Like, he plays defense, he rebounds, he passes. Yeah, he's legit, man. Like, he is the real deal.
So explosive. So, I mean, some of obviously the poster dunks, very MJ-esque. He also takes a lot of those, what was so great about MJ too, very rarely where they're like square on dunks. Like, they're always, it's a shoulder turn at an angle, like there's just there's an aesthetic there that's really interesting. And it's funny too, because his favorite player was Kevin Durant, and he plays nothing like, KD. But obviously, I'm sure you've seen this too. This is the first time in over a decade where Steph, KD, and LeBron are not in the second round of the playoffs. Like, a true changing of the guard. And yeah, I mean, you can see it. These young guys. I mean, this is not even to mention like Wembanyama coming up. Dude, it's. I don't know how you. The thing is, you mentioned too, like, they kind of don't get up for the regular season games. Well, you can't not get up for these games in the West anymore, because the difference between the 1 and the 8 was it's about 10 games, and you get all these guys kind of crowded around. Like, 3 through 8 was a couple games separation. So they've really gone out of their way to make, like, the parity is just, it's almost like too much in my opinion. I like there being super teams personally. I grew up in that era. I like a dynasty and then everyone else trying to get after the dynasty. But now it literally is it's like a bar fight in the Western Conference.
Well, yeah, and you have this huge shift too of like the dudes that you just have to appreciate it, because they're not going to be around that much longer. Like LeBron, KD, and Steph, and like they don't come around again. Like, there's just like one LeBron, and the amount of people who are like happy like LeBron loses is wild to me. I'm like, even if you're not like you don't like love the Lakers, like, the dude is old as shit and he's still doing this. Like, it is just wild to watch. Like, he still plays defense. He still can, like, obviously he's not as athletic, but I'm like, he's a freak show. And he can shoot now, and just to watch him, like, that he plays every night for the most part, like, I can't, I'm just trying to like imagine myself like running up and down. I'm like, Jesus, dude, your body just beat to shit. And he does it at such a high clip. Same thing for KD and Steph too. It's just to watch it and be like, yeah, these dudes are been doing this for, 13, 14, 15, LeBron 20 plus years. And then to have, if Anthony Edwards' favorite player is KD, to end up playing against him and then talk shit to him like as you're playing is like, it's actually pretty badass.
No, it is. Yeah. And that's the thing about that guy. That's like, okay, so he has because you do have to have a little bit of a delusion of grandeur, especially when you're younger. We both had it when we started our fitness businesses, to think that we would get to this point at any point from where it started. It is delusional. I think people around us probably felt that way. I know you've talked about it at your podcast before, that maybe the only person who believed was Heather. And even then, I'm sure she had her moments privately where she's like,
Sure.
I don't know if this is going to be a business. Because, that's just how it is when you start something with no blueprint on your own. But the refereeing has been awful. This is some of the worst officiating. Like, they'll do a review. You'll clearly see what's going on there, and they won't overturn it, or it's obviously the big buzzword has been marginal contact. Like, it goes. It's not. There's no consistency whatsoever. Their replay system is beyond the fact that it can take 5+ minutes, break up the flow of the game. They don't seem to get the calls right. There's no consistency in how they're applying the rules. They got to do something about that in the offseason. But that's really been the only negative I've seen so far, because they've been competitive games. I don't know how Mavs and Clippers is going to turn out. I mean, Kawhi's hurt again.
Yeah, I mean, if the Clippers could ever be healthy, man, they're a force. But it's like never been the case. It's just and the same thing like with the Suns. Like, yeah, you got those three dudes to play finally, but I'm like, they don't have enough pieces. Where I think like the Clippers probably do. It's just the problem is you always have at least Kawhi or somebody not playing, and for those dudes and those teams, like you have to have all your key dudes playing right now. Like the same thing for the Bucks. Like, what are the odds they really beat the Pacers? I mean, even if they do, it's like they're done after that. Like you need your top dudes to play this time of year.
So I said before the playoffs started, I think Denver's going back to back. Is that where you're at?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see anybody beating them really. I just can't imagine like whether it's Boston or anyone from the East, and I just don't think the Timberwolves are there yet.
The only thing I can see is if Murray's got this calf issue now, though he had no problem against us and closing us out in Game 5. But the calf, especially in a game like basketball.
Dude.
You're one step away from it not only tearing the calf, but it being an Achilles issue. Barring something like freak accident like that, I just don't see. MPJ Porter Jr. is like a 6'10" Klay Thompson. I mean, they don't even ask him to do much. He just he stands there and then occasionally goes from baseline to baseline, and then no one can block that shot. And then now Aaron Gordon is not going to have another matchup like LeBron the rest of the way.
No,
so
dude.
It's going to be
to have him as like a third, fourth option. He's just a monster, dude. And he used to be the man back in the day, and now you have this dude just hanging out, and he can get you 20 and 10 on any night, and that's like the nice luxury most teams don't have.
You know what occurred to me, and I could be wrong. Maybe you've seen it, but I have yet to see the best basketball player in the world dunk. I haven't seen Jokic dunk.
I think he had one against. Well, I think there's one against the Lakers, like kind of a fast break.
The one you're talking about though was he didn't really, because I know I'm like that's when I was like, wait, I don't think that was a dunk, and I'm trying to think, has he ever dunked? Because he just prefers to lay it in. He's such a finesse. He's big and he's bouldering, and he waddles down the floor and just casually gets triple doubles almost every game. But I don't know if I've actually seen him dunk. Not that you need to, obviously, to be the best player in the world, but that guy is
crazy, man. He just cooks everybody, and he just seems like so nonchalant. Like, I'm just here to work, and that's it, and I'm gonna play, and then I'm not gonna think about anything other than my personal life. Like, he just seems like where you watch KD or Ant or something. I feel like they live basketball. Like every second of the day, they probably sleep with one. And Jokic just seems like, I'm just here to go to work right now, and then I'm out of here.
No, he sleeps with his horses,
which is on commercials now, which is fucking amazing. Do they little pony commercials walking through the hotels? That's wild.
I also like to see the marketing teams that do sponsor work with him. They're working really hard to pull some form of personality out of him. You see the whole Despicable Me thing?
Yeah, he's better than Kawhi, but not by much.
Kawhi won't even give you a smile.
It's bad. Yeah.
It's like this is a 6-figure deal. You can at least show some teeth.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why he does that. Cause I feel like there's clips from him in college where he would dance around and be cool and kind of have fun, and then all of a sudden he just got in the league and he's like, "Yeah, dude, I'm just going to be a mutant," and that's it. And he's just held on to it. Where Jokic will at least, I mean, he's doing the deals, so he's in the commercials now, so he's making money. And the Despicable Me one, the different hotel ones I've seen. I think he has one other one too.
But that gives me the opportunity to say one of the worst ads I've seen out there right now. I don't know if you've seen it. It's SGA and
Chet.
Chet singing a 90s pop song. I don't know who, for that to work, it has to be so bad it's funny, or it has to be these guys actually can hold a tune, and it tragically falls right in the middle of it being bad but not funny. I don't know what happened here, but
it's What a Girl Wants, I think.
Yes, that's this song.
Is it Christina Aguilera? Maybe?
It is, yeah.
but I don't even know what the commercial's for. I've seen it 50 times.
I actually
Cell
forget
phone?
too. No, it's a terrible ad. It's not a good ad. As someone who like I actually had dreams of going into making commercials when I was younger. That's how strange I am. And I love I love a good marketing campaign, a good ad that hits, that can make you smile or create emotion in a short period of time. And like in a chaotic world, this thing stands out and it kind of gets in the ether. Like, that's always fascinated me. So I'm very aware when one does not hit. By the way, this is part of the game. Some hit, some don't. I know what they were going for. The same time too, like you got to have a team in place that's like, this ain't it. Before we transition, you're watching on YouTube. Let us know in the comments who you think is going to win the NBA playoffs. We'd love to hear your feedback.